Today, we're diving into one of the most vital and one of the most threatened ecosystems on our entire planet, the Amazon rainforest. It's a world of almost mind-blowing scale, but it is facing a critical moment, and we're going to break down exactly what that means.
To even begin to understand the Amazon, you have to get a feel for the scale, and it really starts with this number, 390 billion. That is the best estimate for the number of individual trees in the rainforest. I mean, that's a number that's almost impossible to wrap your head around, and it forms the very backbone of this entire system.
But the trees are just the start. The forest is also home to an estimated 2.5 million different species of insects. That's this incredibly complex web of life that's just fundamental to how the whole ecosystem works. And if you want to put all that biodiversity into a global perspective, just think about this. 1 out of every 10 known species on Earth lives in the Amazon. I mean, it is literally the largest collection of life on the planet. No exaggeration.
So let's start right there by exploring this world of wonders. What is it that makes the Amazon so unique, so important, and just so unbelievably rich with life?
Well, it is really hard to overstate its significance. The Amazon makes up more than half of all the remaining rainforests on the entire planet. It's the biggest, it's the most biodiverse stretch of tropical rainforest we have left, period. And what's truly incredible is just how dense all that life is. So these numbers you're seeing here, that's not for the whole forest. That's for a single hectare, which is about the size of a sports field. Just imagine standing in one spot and finding 160 different species of birds and over 300 types of trees. The concentration of life is just, well, it's off the charts. And all this biodiversity, of course, creates some truly unique animals you just can't find anywhere else. You've got the legendary pink river dolphin, the endangered giant otter, the hoatzin, which is a bird so strange that scientists say you just have to see it to believe it, not to mention blue poison dart frogs and jaguars. And these are just a tiny handful of the thousands of species that call this forest their one and only home. But this vibrant, incredible world is in serious trouble. So let's turn to the urgent risks that are facing the Amazon right now.
The one concept we absolutely have to understand is this idea of a tipping point. This isn't about a slow, gradual decline. It's a critical threshold. It's a point of no return. Once we cross it, the forest could start to irreversibly die back, basically turning into a much drier, savanna-like landscape that can no longer create its own rain or support all that unique life. So how close are we to that tipping point? The answer is alarmingly close. Scientists think that the tipping point could be hit when about 20 to 25% of the forest is gone. And right now, today, we're at about 20%. We are right on the razor's edge of that critical threshold.
And this destruction hasn't been a steady process. It's been speeding up. It really kicked off in the 1970s when new highways started opening up the forest interior. By the 90s, the rate of loss had skyrocketed. And even though things got a little better for a while, by 2021, deforestation rates had hit a 15-year high.
So what's behind all this? Well, while things like mining and soy farming are definitely significant problems, the single biggest driver, by a long shot, is clearing land for livestock pasture. About 70% of all the deforested land in the Amazon is now being used for cattle ranching, mostly to feed the global demand for beef.
Okay, so you might be thinking, this is a huge problem, but it's a forest thousands of miles away. Why does it matter to all of us? Well, let's break down the global consequences, because they are huge.
For decades, the Amazon has been one of our greatest allies in the fight against climate change. Those 390 billion trees and all that dense vegetation have basically acted like a giant sponge, a massive carbon sink, pulling in and storing huge amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But that critical job it's been doing for us, it's now reversing. And this is probably the most shocking part of the whole story. Because of deforestation, fires, and climate stress, parts of the Amazon are now actually emitting more greenhouse gases than they absorb. The forest that once helped keep our climate stable is starting to do the opposite.
And it's not just about carbon. The Amazon is a gigantic weather engine. All the moisture that the trees release into the air forms these atmospheric flying rivers that carry water vapor all across the continent. They affect rainfall that's essential for farming and for cities far, far away from the forest itself. So when you lose the forest, you start to lose the rain. Now, the situation is absolutely critical, but it is not hopeless. So let's look at the path forward, a path that tries to combine preservation with economic reality. So you get statements like this one from a Brazilian official back in 2019, and it really gets to the heart of the debate.
This idea that you can't just put a fence around the forest and say don't touch. The argument is that finding ways to create economic value from a living forest is the best way to stop it from being destroyed for short-term profits.
And here's the economic case for preservation, just laid out in plain numbers. When you actually calculate the long-term value of a single hectare of rainforest from things like sustainable fruits, rubber, and timber, it's worth over $6,800. If you just clear-cut it for commercial timber, its value drops to $1,000. And if you turn it into cattle pasture, its value completely crashes to just $148. The living forest is just vastly more valuable.
And there are real, tangible ways to make that value a reality. Things like smart land planning that protects both the land and the water, or developing ecotourism that brings in steady income for local communities. There are even innovative farming methods like silvopasture, which actually combines trees and grazing on the same land. And of course, the big one. Governments have to step up with policies that protect the forest and then actually enforce them.
So, really, it all comes down to this. We are standing at a critical threshold. The science is clear about what's at stake, not just for the forest, but for the entire planet. The economics are clear that preservation is actually the most valuable path we can take. All the evidence points in one direction. The Amazon is at its tipping point. So the question is, which way are we going to push it?